Have you observed cool UN? Well, good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to see you again. I came back from my 6-day-long trip to China and Mongolia. I came back yesterday evening. Summer is here. I hope you're finding some time to enjoy your summer holidays. I'm going to take a few days off next month. Come September, we will be entering a crucially important stage on climate change. I'd like to briefly address that before taking your questions. Let me start at home first. Here at headquarters, the Capital Master Plan begins a new phase. The first teams of UN personnel are moving out of this building into so-called swing spaces around the city. In many ways, the renovation is an outward symbol of our inward renewal. The redesigned UN building will incorporate some of the most innovative design features to achieve greater efficiency and energy savings. A new high-efficiency double-glazed facade, improved heating, ventilation, and lighting. We will no longer living in what some have described as a large terrarium. Total energy consumption of the UN headquarters will be reduced by more than 50%. Greenhouse gas emissions will fall by more than 45% when we move back to a renovated building. This is one example of the practical steps organizations, businesses, and individuals can take to build a greener and more prosperous world. And that is one of my main themes coming out of my visit to China and Mongolia. Climate change was the major focus of my trip to Asia. First, I wanted to highlight the special responsibility of countries like China to lead the global fight against the climate change, as well as highlight all that China is doing. In particular, I helped to launch an ambitious program to promote energy-saving lighting, which could reduce China's energy consumption by 8%. This is a major step into the 21st century economy. I was pleased that President Hu Jintao and Premier Wen Jiabao assured me that China wants to seal a deal in Copenhagen in December, and that China will play an active and constructive role in the negotiations to achieve this end. We also agreed on the importance of global leaders showing the way and discussed in detail the climate change in New York on September 22nd. Second, I stressed the need to help the poorest and the most vulnerable countries adapt to climate change. In Mongolia, climate change is a clear and present danger. 3/4 of its grasslands are threatened by desertification. Its culture and economy are in danger of being swallowed by sand. Extreme weather events are becoming all too common. A herder community that I met with on Mongolia's open steppe reminded me that climate change is not an abstract concept. It is a harsh reality that is changing the way we live. The community I met is actively engaged in seeking solutions. They are changing their land management practices. They are even using solar power. They are adapting, but they need help. A robust agreement on adaptation in Copenhagen is vital to Mongolia and so many vulnerable nations and peoples affected by climate change. Third and finally, I continue to press for achieving a fair, effective, and scientifically ambitious deal in Copenhagen that can benefit all nations. That is why I'm convening the September Climate Change Summit. We expect more than 100 heads of state and government, the largest gathering of leaders on climate change ever. Two years ago, only a few leaders could speak to these issues. Today, leaders are walking the road to Copenhagen together. But we have less than 5 months to seal a deal. To keep up the momentum, I will travel to the Arctic polar ice brim later next month to get a first-hand look at conditions there, in particular the melting sea ice. I will then go to the World Climate Conference in Geneva, organized by WMO. In the largest sense, climate change testifies to the interconnected nature of today's global challenges. They require us to come together in a spirit of renewed multilateralism, a multilateralism that delivers results, not more promises and declarations of good intention. Let me add a few more observations on my visit to Mongolia that show how a renewed multilateralism can work. Mongolia's democracy is thriving, and its management of the economy based on the Millennium Development Goals is exemplary, making Mongolia a truly a model for other countries. The Mongolian government decided on the occasion of my visit to contribute a battalion of peacekeepers to Minukot, Central African Republic, and Chad. I had an opportunity to visit the Tavan Tolgoi Peacekeeping Operations Training Center. I'm grateful to the Mongolian government and other troop contributors for their strong commitment to the United Nations and to peace and security. I also attended the opening ceremony of an international think tank for landlocked developing countries. As one of the LLDCs, Mongolia has taken an important initiative to address the challenge of all the LLDCs. The United Nations stands ready to help LLDCs in their common efforts to overcome special socio-economic barriers. If all governments demonstrate a commitment to the UN that Mongolia is showing and make concrete contributions in a range of areas as well, then a renewed multilateralism will become a reality. Now is the time to act. And thank you very much. And with that, I will take your questions. Thank you.
Well, the first question goes to Anka. Errol Advudich has the first question.
Thank you, Michelle, and I thanks to the President of Anka, Mr. Gianpaolo, giving me this opportunity since I didn't have a chance from 1999 or 2000 when I was the last time of president of this organization. Mr. Secretary General, recognizing all the difficulties that you have had in the first half of your tenure, of your mandate, do you think that now is the time to redefine or redesign your priorities? And what can you tell us about that? Would you state that still Sudan is on the top of your priority list, or you would go with something else, perhaps as you mentioned just today? And bearing in mind that the last war indeed belongs to the member states, how do you see your leadership role on the top of this organization for the next half of your tenure? Thank you.
I will continue based on the mandates tasked by the member states as a Secretary General. And I have placed several agendas top on my priorities. On global issues, I have paid my highest priority in addressing climate change. I will continue to do that beyond, many years now coming. And the utmost priority at this time is to make this Copenhagen meeting a success, where we can agree on a global deal, which will be a comprehensive, ambitious, and equitable one to address climate change, with developed and developing countries all are getting on board. Second one, I will continue to make this organization a trustful one, a more efficient and effective one. This reform of the Secretariat and this organization will be my continuing priority as a Secretary General. And again, I would need the strong support and cooperation of member states and the Secretariat staff. And thirdly, there are many regional conflict issues where they need our help through intervention of peacekeeping operations, through political mediation, and through assistance of humanitarian assistance. This world, somehow, we have seen so many conflicts around the world, and that's quite troubling that we have not been able to resolve all these issues. First and foremost, we need a stronger political will and more strengthen the political will of the member states to participate and contribute the resources and political will. And that will be very important. Sudan is one of the top priorities. We have not seen the resolution of this issue. There are three aspects on Sudan, as you know. And as far as the deployment of UNAMID, the peacekeepers are concerned, we may be able to achieve this mandated soldiers over 26,000 by the end of this year. But still we will be lacking some critical assets like helicopter and heavy transport. This will be again crucially important for the member states to contribute. There are political process. The recent judgment by Permanent Court of Arbitration on the status of Wei was quite encouraging one. With all this encouraging development of situation, I hope we'll be able to see this smooth implementation and progress in political issues between South and North Sudan. And my Special Envoy, working together with the African Union, Mr. Basole, will continue to work on that. We will continue to provide this humanitarian assistance to Sudanese people. But as far as these displaced persons, we have seen so many humanitarian crises now. In Pakistan, we have more than 2.4 million displaced persons. In Somalia, we have 1.2 million people. In Sudan, in Darfur, we have more than 1 million people. We have so many displaced persons again in Sudan and Chad area. We've been trying to mobilize all resources possible. That is what Mr. John Holmes, USCG OCHA, has appealed last week in Geneva, that we are still lacking significant funding programs, more than $5 billion, that we need political and resource support from member states. On those, on the basis of this political and financial support from member states, I'm sure that I'll be able to carry out my duty successfully as a Secretary General. And I count on your support too, from the media too. Thank you.
Next question to Iftikhar Ali.
Is it possible to ask questions about Sudan, Michelle?
Well, you'll come back later, Jonathan. I have you on my list. Okay. Yes, Iftikhar.
Sir, with the rise of insurgency in Afghanistan and rising Western casualties, there is now again talk about a dialogue with the Taliban. There are also reports in the British press that there are contacts, secret contacts going on with a man like Baitullah Masood. Sir, in this process, as the British are pushing for dialogue and Pakistan seems willing, and United States has also expressed interest in dialogue, what role, if any, the United Nations is playing in this context?
On all these matters, United Nations concerns and role have been focused on first of all, assisting Pakistani government in addressing humanitarian concerns, very serious humanitarian crisis. I have, as you know, recently appointed a humanitarian coordinator. I'm going to strengthen this role of the humanitarian coordinator. I'm closely coordinating with all member states, particularly donor countries. And I have recently constituted the commission to look into this assassination of former Prime Minister Bhutto. That is also important part where United Nations can help in all this political process. Pakistani government under the leadership of President Zardari, they have been very closely coordinating with the US government and other European governments on how to address, first of all, this fighting against terrorism. I think they have been making some successes. I hope they will be able to continue to gain some successes. But first and foremost, they should have some good political reconciliations with all the parties concerned. That's what the United Nations will continue to facilitate.
We'll have Jonathan's question now. Where is he? Jonathan Washington, where is he? He's left. Okay. Okay. Here. Jonathan, I have your question. Go ahead. Ask him.
I had to go out and make a quick call. Mr. Secretary General, why has it taken now 5 years and going still to resolve the Darfur crisis? Why is the United Nations incapable of stopping what many call a genocide of our time?
If you ask why it has taken 5 years to resolve this issue, I'd like to repeat again what I just said. We need the political will on the part of member states, on the part of the parties concerned, directly concerned on this situation in Darfur, as well as on the part of general member states who need to provide the necessary support so that the United Nations whether it be peacekeeping operations, whether it be political facilitation, can smoothly conduct this process. As you may remember, since day one as a Secretary General, I made this Darfur crisis as #1. We made certain progress in terms of deploying this UNAMID forces, but it has been quite long delayed, over-delayed. But still it's going on. It's moving, I think, smoothly at this time with the help of Sudanese government. Now, on humanitarian assistance, even though we have averted all this humanitarian crisis as such, but still there is a huge gap in addressing humanitarian situations that we all need. Look at the case of critical assets like helicopters. 24 helicopters were needed, and we have secured only 6 helicopters. Now we need 18 helicopters more. I have been discussing on this issue with almost all the leaders of the countries who I thought would be able to provide or would have some capacity to provide helicopters. But I have not been able to get this support. We really need some political will. My experience as a Secretary General leads me to believe that the most important thing would be political will. Even though we are experiencing economic crisis, we have, I think, some capacity to address financially and in terms of resources on many cases. On climate change, we have capacity, we have technology, we have a financing. But simply because of lack of political will, where leaders are not simply able to look beyond their national borders. That's why we have not been able to agree on this climate change. That's why we have not been able to resolve these doubtful cases.
We go to Edie Ledro.
Mr. Secretary General, you have always been a very strong supporter of the six-party talks to try and rein in North Korea's nuclear program, but the DPRK is saying right now that they absolutely will not go back to six-party talks, and have strongly indicated that they want one-on-one talks with the United States. What is your assessment of the situation, and do you believe that the six-party format remains the most viable? And as a small corollary to the North Korea issue, is the United Nations playing any role at all in trying to win the release of the 2 American reporters imprisoned in the North?
Now, I'm still deeply concerned about the recent developments in the Korean Peninsula, where we have not been able to see any progress of dialogue, and this DPRK's defiant positions against this Security Council resolution. I think the strong and unified response by the Security Council through this resolution 1874 sent a very strong and clear message to Pyongyang that the international community will not accept nuclear weapons in DPRK, and that the message has been clearly sent. And I'm also concerned that all the doors for dialogue have been shut by DPRK authorities. At this time, however, while I believe that six-party talk still can provide a good way for the solution through dialogue, if necessary, then there should be some other forms of dialogue. And I'm encouraged by the willingness of DPRK authorities to engage in direct dialogue with the United States. That I would like to support and welcome. Whatever the format of dialogue may be, you cannot find any alternative in addressing these DPRK North Korea issues than dialogue, then resolving this in a peaceful manner. On this, 2 American journalists detained in DPRK, I have taken my own initiative, even though I'm not able to disclose it. On 2 occasions, I have conveyed my strong wish and appeal even to DPRK authorities that they should look at this issue and release them, even on humanitarian grounds. That's what I have been doing now. Sorry that I'm not able to disclose any more in detail.
We'll go to Tarek. You didn't get a chance last time.
I'm very interested in understanding your position clearly, sir, towards Israel's demand to get an Arab recognition first and before resuming the peace talks, which is in hold for a long, long time right now, to get the Arab recognition of its state as a land for the Jewish people only. And, you know, it implies the Palestinians to get deprived of their right to return, millions of Palestinians, and also to drive out millions of Palestinians out of Israel right now. So what's your position toward this, and how far do you think this will affect the rights of the Arabs and the Palestinians in the occupied territory? And also, sir, if you don't mind, yesterday in the Security Council, it was so weird because your envoy to Chad and Central Africa, he admitted
two questions,
clearly,
sorry.
that's very short, he admitted clearly the failure to handle the security situation in the region there. So my question, what are you going to do in order to increase the capability of the UN to stabilize the region? Thank you.
I will ask all of you to ask one question at a time, please, to give the others a chance.
Okay, on the situation in Middle East, particularly when it comes to Israeli and Palestinian relationship, the whole international community hold the view that there should be two states, Israeli and Palestinians, who can live side by side in peace and security. This is a two-state vision. And for that possible, Israel's right to exist should be recognized by Palestinians and all Arab countries, while I also support the independent state of Palestinians. All the countries in the region should be able to live without any fear. They should be able to live in peace and security. That's a basic vision and goal for which United Nations and the key players have been working very hard. The currently United States Special Envoy, Senator George Mitchell, and other leaders have been actively engaging with Israelis and other Arab countries. And United Nations, I myself, have been actively engaging through my participation in Quartet and through my bilateral meetings with the Israeli leaders and Arab leaders, and including Palestinian President and Prime Minister. This will continue. It has been 6 decades long, and we must put an end to this conflict. This relationship between Palestinians and Israelis, if they can resolve this issue, this will provide a very good impact and impetus to the overall peace and security in the Middle East. The Arab Peace Initiative has also been recognized as a cornerstone of this Middle East peace. So I will not go in detail because it will take a long time. On this, my special envoy's report to the Security Council yesterday, I think he reflected the current situation there. We have not been able to see again tension reductions there. I sincerely hope again that as they have agreed so many times in the past through official declarations that the Sudan and Chad, they should improve their relationship. They have agreed to normalize their diplomatic relationship, and quite often these promises, political promises, have been broken by the parties concerned. That's what and why Mr. Angelo has reported to Security Council.
Caio?
On Myanmar, a verdict on the charges against Madame Aung San Suu Kyi is expected on Friday. In your meeting with Senior General Tan Shui, you have requested that all charges against her would be dropped. Hasn't been dropped, and how disappointed are you that the military junta has ignored your request and also has not responded to any of your other proposals in a concrete manner?
Again, I have been closely following the development in the situation in Myanmar since my return. I hope they will keep their pledges, which was conveyed to Security Council a few days ago, officially, that at the request of Secretary General of the United Nations, they would be taking necessary procedures to grant amnesty to political prisoners. The detailed information has not been given, and I'm concerned that they are continuing this judicial process on Aung San Suu Kyi. When I was there, I made it quite clear repeatedly that all the charges should be dropped and she should be freed. We will continue to press on this issue. That's what I can tell you at this time.
Okay, we go to Lucy Sanders, Xinhua.
Can you comment on your employee, Ms. Lubna Hussein in Sudan, who faces 40 lashes for wearing pants? Have you made a plea on her behalf? She's also said that she will resign from the UN and take the punishment to try to change the law.
The UN mission in Sudan, UNMISS, has informed me about this case. I'm, of course, deeply concerned. The United Nations will take every effort to ensure that the rights of its staff members are protected. The flogging is against the international human rights standards. I call on all parties to live up to their obligations under all relevant international instruments.
I go to Nizar Aboud, Al-Alam TV.
Secretary General, regarding the recent situation in South Lebanon, we heard from the three-party meeting in Nakura recently that the Israelis made a threat to attack civilian areas once any aggression happens in the south of Lebanon. What's your reaction to that?
I'm not aware of any imminent such Israeli plans, but whatever the situation may be, again, it was a source of great concern that there were a serious violation of the Security Council Resolution 1701. My special coordinator, Mr. Michael Williams, and General Graziano of UNIFIL, they are all in the process of consulting this matter with the Lebanese armed forces and Lebanese government, as well as Israeli government officials, to first of all prevent any further violation of 1701. That efforts will continue. I would again strongly urge that while we have seen encouraging development of situation politically and in terms of security and stabilization in Lebanon, all the parties concerned, they should fully cooperate so that this fragile peace and political stability should be able to maintain its own course. That's the best way now to see the resolution of this issue, as well as implementation of Council Resolution 1701. I also hope that the new Israeli government should look at all the pending issues to be resolved.
Laulu Wakande.
It's nice to see you dressing down. I wanted you to comment on the recent amnesty that the Nigerian federal government has granted to the militants in Niger Delta. What's your reaction to the fact that they are asking all the militants who have caused so much harm to go free within a limited period of time?
When I was attending G8 summit meeting in Italy, I had an in-depth discussions, bilateral meeting with the President of Nigeria. And yes, I'm concerned of the reports coming from Nigeria about this deteriorating security situation, this sectarian violence in parts of northern Nigeria, particularly last weekend. I condemn the unnecessary loss of human lives and destruction of property as a result of militant attacks. I hope that those behind the attacks would be identified and brought to justice in accordance with the law. I call upon the leadership of government of Nigeria, law enforcement and security agencies, as well as religious and community leaders to work together to address the underlying causes of the frequent religious clashes in Nigeria, so that the resolution could be found through dialogue, tolerance, and also understanding.
We go to Gianpaolo, then to Talal.
Secretary General, are you willing to go to Pyongyang to pave the way for a direct dialogue between U.S. and North Korea? You're used to go to different places, difficult places. So.
Yes, I know. I know that there's a situation in the Korean Peninsula is very serious, and whatever I can do as a Secretary General, I'm willing to do, including my own visit to Pyongyang at this time. However, I need to find out when would be an appropriate timing for me to visit. I'm not able to give you any answer at this time. Yeah.
Mr. Secretary General, Mrs. Rabia Qadir, she is the exiled leader of the Uyghur Muslim community in Western China. She said today in Tokyo, just today, that more than 10,000 Muslims, Uyghur, have disappeared from Urumqi, the capital of Xinjiang province, and she's asking for the establishment of an international fact-finding commission or committee to go and look into the disappearance of these 10,000 people or more, which nobody's have been fined for. In your talks with the Chinese, have you raised this matter? Are you willing to look into this issue of setting up a commission? And just for the record, I don't think personally that you have answered Tariq's question on the call of Israel for the Arabs to set up a Jewish, to recognize Israel as a Jewish state, which runs contrary to 194, the right of return, and which would threaten the deportation or repatriation of 8 million Arab Israelis who lives in Israel. I don't think you really answered it. President Clinton, sitting beside you here, he thought that was unrealistic and unacceptable last time.
On this situation in China, Xinjiang case, first of all, I'm not aware of any detailed information on exact situation about this number of people. You said 10,000, but first of all, I have to look at the case, for exact information. I do not have any such information on that. As she said. Basically, I was deeply saddened by the loss of life and violence that took place recently in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous region of China. I stand by the universal principle that whatever the causes of differences, may be, whatever the differences of opinions may be, these should be resolved peacefully without resorting to violence. In that regard, I condemn all this, violence, those people who resorted to violence. And for any specific matters, I have to look at this issue again. Yeah. And on this return of refugees, that's one of very important fundamental questions in addressing this issue. I told you that I would not go into anything in further.
194, your resolution 194, which calls for the return of refugees. It's a United Nations resolution.
There have been many important resolutions have been adopted by the United Nations Security Council and General Assembly. And these resolutions should pave the basis of consultations. Yes.
Mr. Barish.
Mr. Secretary, you have so many problems in front of you that, it's very difficult to solve all of them. By the way, for this Cyprus, do you have any idea that, this has been almost 30 years going on, that, and do you have any suggestion or any ideas for the future?
During last 30-year-long conflict period, I think we have seen during last several months most encouraging development of situation through very frequent bilateral talk between the two leaders of the two communities. United Nations, through our special envoy, Mr. Downer, and my level also, have been strongly supporting these negotiations between the two leaders of the two communities. And they have made significant progress, which we have not been able to see during the last 3 decades. That's quite commendable. They have been meeting around 30 times now. They have completed the first round of their readings on many important subjects, including security and property issues. I hope that they will be able to finish their consultation and negotiation as soon as possible. They have taken many important encouraging issues which have been very much appreciated by international community. We will continue to support their efforts. And I have met on many occasions Mr. Talat and Mr. Christofias.
Ms. Fitzgerald?
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General. A number of Nobel Prize winners have called on you to appoint a special envoy to Iran to investigate human rights abuses. What was your response? And could you tell us in general your engagement with Iran in recent weeks?
I have received such a request directly from Iranian Nobel Peace Laureate, as well as some Iranian communities and humanitarian communities on that. I am aware of their concern and their wish. At this time, I have been very closely monitoring the situations which have been taking place in Iran. I'm still in the process of reviewing all the situations there.
We're running out of time. I'm going to give the floor to Karaman, then to Mike Ibarra, NHK.
Thank you, Michelle. Mr. Secretary General, during your previous press conference, you said that you were trying to be the voice of the voiceless. My question is follow-up about China's oppression of Uyghurs in East Turkestan. What exactly has the UN done to tell the Chinese to stop the human rights violations instead of going after the Uyghurs saying stop the, coming up? Thank you.
I think the question was just answered by the Secretary General.
I have, you may remember that I have also issued a statement previously on this issue. Yeah.
Okay, Mike?
Your answer on Myanmar. If Aung San Suu Kyi is going to be found guilty with sentence up to 5 years, what would be your reaction to that?
My reaction will come, when we really see what's happening there or what will happen there. So let me answer your questions later. But whatever the case it may be, they will have missed the very important opportunity, first of all, to engage with the international community. And they will be betraying the expectations and wish of the whole international community, who really want to see Myanmar fully integrated as a member of the international community, who really want to see Aung San Suu Kyi freed and enjoy freedom and liberty as anybody else in the world.
And we got the last one to Frank. Frank, and we are closing after this. Yes, Frank.
Secretary General, there's a report out this morning that your human rights chief, Nabi Pillay, had refused to receive and meet with the Dalai Lama in Geneva when he goes there this week. Does this, in your mind, send the right message with regards to human rights?
I'll have to check on this issue. I have not read that. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Since we last spoke, just say as briefly as you can what follow-up you've made on the commitments of the joint statement that you received from Rajapaksa. Thank you.
In the margins of non-aligned summit meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh, I had the bilateral meeting with President Rajapaksa of Sri Lanka. There again, we reviewed what we had discussed during my visit, and I strongly urged him to take necessary measures to, first of all, improve the conditions of IDP camps so that they can have a freer movement. And as far as this freedom of movement of the humanitarian workers, I think we have ensured that freedom. And there needs to be more freedom of those people living in camps. Their living conditions should be improved. And I also strongly urged him to take, to reach out to minority groups like Tamil, and to take necessary measures to look for this accountability process. Those are 3 points which I have strongly urged him, and he committed to me that he will abide by all what he made pledges during my visit. And I had an opportunity of discussing this matter with some key players like China and India during my visit to China. And during the time of G8 summit meeting, I had a talk with the Indian Prime Minister so that they could do all what they can. I have also discussed with the Japanese Prime Minister and many other world leaders on these issues.